Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode number 3 of Oilers This Week. I am Gene Edwards. Before I get into the big news of the week, which is the signing of Evander Kane, I just want to acknowledge a happy belated birthday to the great one who had a birthday on Wednesday, 61 years young, and yeah, right on for him. So yes, let's get into the big news of the week, which is the signing of Evander Kane. He signed a one-year deal for $750,000, which has and has also a $625,000 signing bonus for a total cap hit of $2.1 million. Full no movement clause. He will don the number 91. So right on. All right, so I'm just going to read off the statement released by the NHL regarding his cross-border travel investigation that was stalling the signing of him becoming an Edmonton Oiler. So it reads, the National Hockey League announced today that it has concluded its investigation into the circumstances pursuant to which Evander Kane traveled cross-border during the holiday period. The report prepared in connection with the investigation, which was conducted by Patterson, Belknap, Webb, and Tyler LLP, concluded that there was insufficient evidence to conclusively find that Mr. Kane knowingly made misrepresentations regarding his COVID-19 status or test results in connection with the international travel. As a result, the league has determined not to pursue any additional league-imposed discipline against Mr. Kane at the current time. Kane remains an unrestricted free agent and is currently eligible to sign and play for any NHL club without restriction. So there you have it. There was no evidence of wrongdoing on his part. So you know, I know. There's quite the black cloud that overhangs with some of his previous histories. And yes, he has made mistakes. You can watch the full press conference. One thing I'm going to start adding in on every segment I do now every week. So I usually do about 3 or 4 segments. Depending on the amount of games there is. I am going to add a QR code for every segment. So right here is the QR code. Right here, I believe, is the QR code. What you do is you just take your phone up to the TV with the camera app on and just hold it there. Automatically a link will show up and you just press the link and it'll take you to it. This one happens to be the press conference that was done on Friday, which is where he answers a lot of people's questions, and maybe we'll answer your questions as well about his history and his past. But me, like I said, for being a low-risk contract, I'm pumped. I think he's going to bring some tenacity. He's going to bring some secondary scoring. He's got speed. I mean, look out, Oilers, man. Look out. I think this is going to be a good fit for us. So anyway, let's go on to the highlights of the week. We'll start off with the Vancouver game that happened on Tuesday. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So this is my review for the Oilers Canucks, January 25th, 2022. The Oilers went into Vancouver on a 1-game winning streak, which was, as you saw in my previous video, quite the relief for me because it hasn't been a good go since I broke my leg, to be honest with you. It's like I almost cursed him with me breaking my leg or my ankle. So anyway, let's get on with the scoring summary of the game. The first period, nobody was able to get on the board. So the very first goal was Vancouver, Pettersson's 10th unassisted at 14:26 of the second, followed by Vancouver's Mott from Miller. This was a shorthanded goal. This was one of those ones that when this one happened I'm already thinking, okay, it looks like the video that I'm going to report tomorrow isn't going to be one of positive results. You never like to see a shorthanded goal. So again, the Oilers are chasing the game now, 2-0, going into the third, when Ryan McLeod skates in on the right, I guess it would be the right side, right flank or right side, just throws it on net and finally manages to squeak one past Spencer Martin. Now this Spencer Martin, I've never heard of him. I guess he's a four-stringer because there's either COVID protocols or injuries with the goaltending tandem that they have in Vancouver. But yeah, this guy, wow, stood on his head. Like, just amazing. And I'll get into his stats and Koskinen stats and all that a little bit later. So finally, that broke the ice. And you could just see it at this point in time that the Oilers started having like some energy. Because after that, it was like the Oilers were just taking it to them and taking it to them and taking it to them. And just really, really hounding them with the offense. However, it ended up, then there was Draisaitl scoring his 29th of the year from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Connor McDavid. So now we got a 2-2 game. It ends that way. We go to overtime. Oilers pepper Spencer Martin with 11-1 in shots in this overtime period, 9 of which were grade A chances. So, finally, a beautiful pass from Darnell Nurse to Connor McDavid, and he wins it in overtime at 4:30. And we're talking now a 2-game winning streak for the Edmonton Oilers, which is much better than losing. So some of the stats in this game, other than the final score being 3-2 in overtime, was the Oilers managed to pepper off 50 shots to Vancouver's 27. So you can see they basically a 2-1 ratio in shots, which is quite impressive. And again, with that many shots, they should have got more goals. So they're really having no bounces go their way, or really struggling with the bounces. They were 0 for 3 on the power play, and out-hit 16-13. However, that being said, Zach Kassian was the leader in hits with 3. And I'm going to start mentioning that stat as the last few games. Now, I didn't do the research on this, so I'm just judging one of my friends that I know that told me I should mention this on the Infocast. It was Kyler Yamamoto, and he's, 5'8", 5'9", and he was out hitting a lot of the out hitting was the out hitter in the last few games, to be honest with you. So, for him to show that tenacity at his size, it shows that he really has the willingness to do whatever it takes. Now, as far as the goals against average goes, this Spencer Martin, despite letting in the 3 goals, he had a .940 save percentage, which is like unreal. Like, I'm very happy with Mika Koskinen's .926, but .940 is just unreal, and letting in 3 goals. It was kind of unfortunate he lost, but you know what? I don't care because it's Vancouver. I'd be really pissed off if our team let down our goalie. So anyway, yeah, good win for the Oilers. And we will see you on Thursday against Nashville. Talk to you soon. All right, let's review the Nashville Predator game for Thursday, January 27th, 2022. Oilers come off with a 3-2 win in the shootout, bringing their winning streak now to 3 in a row. The Oilers led the way in shots on goal with 46-30. Both teams had 3 power plays. However, Nashville Predators did not even register a single shot on goal. Oilers led the faceoff percentage with 54. Nashville led the hits with 45-29. Darnell Nurse for the Oilers was our hit leader. He had 5. As far as blocks went, Nashville led the way in that department as well with  23-16. And all-around good effort by both goalies as Koskinen had a 933, which is very, very acceptable numbers, but UC Saros 957. So, wow, that's just some stunning numbers. Anyway, let's go to the Twitter review and Twitter question of the week. I asked you guys, was Leon Draisaitl in the wrong for how he handled the Jim Matheson's post-practice media availability questions on that infamous Tuesday? So, it turned out that 83% of the fan base said no, he was perfectly fine and okay with it. 17% said yes, he did handle it incorrectly. I'm the one that thinks no, he didn't. I think that he was definitely, like I said, and I'll say it again, sometimes these reporters pry and ask the same questions over and over and over, and it just gets a bit much. So anyway, that brings us to this week's question, which is, one second. So now that the Oilers have officially signed Evander Kane, what will be the fate of the team at the end of the year? There's 4 options in here. They won't make the playoffs. Option A. Option B, out in the first round. Option C, will make a deep run. And option D, win the Stanley Cup. So yeah, feel free to make your posts, and we will move on to the Oilers and Montreal review. All right, let's dive into the Edmonton Oilers versus the Montreal Canadiens for January the 29th, 2022. So before I get into the details of that, I do want to apologize about my Nashville review. I thought it really lacked a lot of content. I had the scrolling summary. I didn't like it. Unfortunately, I did not have enough time to do a redo of that video. I'm going to try to present my videos with my own personal opinion on how I felt the game went and my personal thoughts on the game. There's no need for me to be a cookie cutter sports broadcast when you can just watch it on TV. So let's get into this anyway. There was 2 things that I found very deeply concerning prior to this game. And we know about Evander Kane's history. He's had locker room issues with other teammates, but the very first thing I noticed is he went out on the ice he was the only Edmonton Oiler without a lid on. Now, if you do recall, the reason why the Oilers implemented this lid rule many years ago was Taylor Hall had his head sliced wide open during a pregame skate, and ever since then the Oilers have been wearing lids. So he kind of showed a bit of a roguish kind of mentality, if roguish is a word. But he kind of did his things his own way last night, and I don't know if that is a good idea for a guy that needs to win over his next contract, because right now teams are really, really watching him with a microscope. So we'll see what happens. The other thing that I noticed is prior to the national anthems, Connor McDavid was sitting on the bench, and the teammate to his left, I'm not sure who it was, said something to him. And you can noticeably see Connor McDavid kind of shake his head and kind of roll his eyes in disbelief. So I don't know what that was about. I don't know if it was Kane related, but it was something that really stood out for me. But as far as the game went, wow, the Oilers really hammered on the Canadiens. It was a 7-2 final. Let's dive into the scoring summary, and then I'll give you the stats for the game. So, ironically enough, earlier this week, I text my buddy, this text right here, saying that watch Evander Kane be the guy that gets the Edmonton Oilers off of the snide for scoring the first goal. Oilers are on a horrible streak of letting the first goal in. Something like the last 11 games in a row, and they've only scored first in the last 20 or something like that. So it's just an ugly streak for the Edmonton Oilers. And sure as hell, Evander Kane scores the very first goal of the game at 11:21 from Kyler Yamamoto and Evan Bouchard. That was followed up at 12:48 by Zach Hyman and William Legacy and Chris Russell. And then at 13:05, it was Leon Draisaitl from Warren Foegele. So those three goals right there happened within something like 3 minutes and 28 seconds. So at the end of the first, it's 3-0. Everything's looking beautiful for the Oilers at this point in time. We get into the second period, and Montreal answers from Josh Anderson, and that was assisted by Ben Sherratt and Jake Evans at 3:58. But a quick answer back by the Oilers. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins from Zach Hyman and Zach Kassian at 6:18, followed by Zach Hyman's second of the night from Darnell Nurse and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at 14:30. And then it was Tyler Toffoli on the power play from Nick Suzuki and Mike Hoffman. And then Leon Draisaitl capping off the second period with his 31st of the season, his second of the night from Keith and Warren Foegele at 15:33. So at this point in time, it is 6-2 Edmonton after 2 periods. There was only one goal in the third period, which was Derek Ryan from Devon Shore and Duncan Keith, making it 7-2 Edmonton. Just absolute slaughter of the Canadians. But like I said, they had a depleted lineup. They were missing Carey Price, missing Shea Weber, obviously. And then they also didn't have Cole Caulfield and a few other notable players. So, plus they're a team that's really struggling this year. They are the worst in the league right now. Considering they went off the Stanley Cup last year, it's kind of a fall from grace, I guess, so to speak. As far as the stats go, the shots on goal was 24-23 for Edmonton. Montreal was 1 for 2 on the power play. Edmonton was 0 for 1. Face-off was 50-50 split. Hits were 19-19. Blocks, for hits, it was a 3-way tie between Bouchard, Nurse, and Keith at 2 hits apiece. Blocks were 11-7. As far as the goaltending stats go, Skinner had a 913 save percent, and Montreal's tandem really struggled. Primo with an 875 was the best goalie, and Montereau with a 625. So it was really a rough night for the Montreal Canadiens. There is only 2 games going into next week, and that is Monday night against Ottawa and Wednesday night at Washington. Then they take a break for the All-Star game and return home the following Tuesday against Vegas. So I like what I see out of Evander Kane so far. I like the fact that the Oilers are able to roll out these 3 lines, having McDavid centering the first line, Draisaitl centering the second line, and having Nugent-Hopkins centering the third line. So this could be a very good thing. It's great to see, and we will see you next week.